I'm in the Lanchester Library building. Haven't been to the Lanchester Interactive Archive. I won't be talking much in the vlog you're about to see. But enjoy and listen to the story of one of the remaining Lanchester vehicles in Cov.
So yeah, I'll give you a bit of background about Lanchester generally, and then so Frederick Lanchester was an inventor and engineer. He was born in 1868 and not in Coventry at all, born in Lewisham. And he was an engineer, probably best known for inventing the first all-British four-wheel petrol motor car in 1895 with his brothers. And the company started off in Birmingham, Sparkbrook. You've seen Peaky Blinders, then Series 3 of Peaky Blinders. It's all about the Lanchester Motor Company getting taken over. Okay, yeah, you're good. The wing mirrors on this are rubbish, which is why I'm happy to spot as well. And then come the Depression in 1930-31, the company effectively went bust and was taken over by BSA, who already owned Daimler in Coventry. And over the course of, yeah, you're okay. Over the course of literally 2 weeks, everything shut down in Birmingham. They moved to Daimler Works, and then from 1931 to mid 1950s, Daimlers and Lanchesters were produced on the same production line. And this was the first model to be designed and built in Coventry, and it was actually designed by Fred's brother George, who was a fantastic engineer in his own right. And so that's why it's a nice, obviously, link with the university, which was Lanchester College or Lanchester Polytechnic back in the 60s and 70s, and then in 1992 that became Coventry University. So the link with the university, and then obviously the link with the city, with this being the first model to be designed and built in Coventry.
So you know where Imagineer are based, Aaron?
Yep.
That's where this car was made.
Yes.
In the Imagineer building.
There you go, okay.
So yeah, we were there for the opening, so it was probably the first time this car had been back to the factory since it was built.
Nice.
So, so it's built for a woman called Rose Faulkner. Her husband, Fred Faulkner, was a tobacco company owner of the Faulkner Nosegay Shag Tobacco Company. And she got this because her Rolls Royce was too big. Oh, right. Okay, you're okay.
I just thought you can't go that way.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the latest
So it was built to her specifications. So everything. So in those days, you bought the chassis, and the basic chassis and body would have been about sort of £500 to £600 in 1932 money, which is about £40,000 in today's money. And we know that she then got the coach builders, which are Abbott's and Farnham, where she lived, to build the bespoke bodywork. And she would have spent about the same again. So this car, brand new, would have been the equivalent of maybe £80,000 in today's money. Yeah. See, yeah, you could have got this car with, you know, a sort of sporty body or this sort of limousine body. She would have decided the windows she wanted, so both sets of windows open at the back, and she would have also had it built specifically for her chauffeur, whose name was Sydney Parrott. And although you've got loads of room in the back, there is not a lot of room up front. And we've got some picture. We've got a picture here.
There's a picture of them in there, yeah.
There's a picture of the car with Sydney, and so you can see height-wise, he's certainly more Paul's height than my height. And you can have a see it when we get back. You can maybe have a jump in the front seat and see what different it is. But it is pretty compact in the front. But it was made for him and obviously her in the back. When her husband died, she was still on the board of the company and had to make a trip from Farnham in Surrey all the way up to Newcastle upon Tyne once a month. So she would have taken this car. So we've got obviously no motorways back then, but it would have been quite a trip to make a monthly trip up there. So you can understand why she wanted a bit of luxury in the back. And then when she died, she left it to her chauffeur, Sydney. But he really didn't have anything to do with it. He literally just sort of polished it every week and didn't have anyone to take out in it anymore. But he still owned the car. And eventually, a chap called Bob Goodall was passing by. He lived in Farnham as well. And he noticed he'd seen this car and he sort of lusted after it, thinking, oh, that's a lovely car, a lovely old car. And he was due to get married, in fact. And on his way to get his engagement ring, he saw this car and thought, you know what? That car's so good. I'll see if I can buy it. So he spent the money on the car instead of his engagement ring. His wife Anne, or his fiancée and then wife, who was married for many years, was a very understanding lady, and she understood this. So she waited a bit longer, I think, to get the engagement ring. But just pausing on it. So here we're now on the site of the Daimler Works, and a lot of the roads and things around here are named after specific things to do with the motoring industry. And this particular road, yeah, see the sign on the left here, is Lanchester Road. And this, to say, was on the site of the factory, and it's spread. If you look at sort of old maps and things, it's spread for a huge area, and was bombed very significantly in the war. And in fact, the original car, the 1895 car that was that Fred built, was just on the shop floor in the factory and was actually destroyed. So there's nothing left of that car apart from a model that we've got up in the space. So we're on the site of the factory, and there was a test track, and it was, you know, it goes, you know, as far as you can see, this would have been all factory in the during the war.
Because I've never got a picture of this.
Oh, you haven't got it. Space, you'll see one of his other prototype designs was for a petrol-electric hybrid car, which he built in 1927. So he's way ahead of his time in lots of different ways. So he could easily have been driving a hybrid car since the 20s. So literally nuts and bolts, everything else. So the car's an aluminium body on a wooden ash frame, and he completely rebuilt the ash frame. And when he was restoring it, he managed to get hold, he was trying to do the interior, and managed to get hold of the apprentice who'd done the original interior, a guy called Bert Holdaway. And and this material is called Bedford cord. And he actually got Bert to help him. He said, "Yeah, you're right. All you really need to do is reverse it, so you can see on the back. That's sort of the original colour. So it's faded a little bit, but we know pretty much this interior is pretty much spot on." And then Bob owned it in the 60s all the way through. Took it to lots of events. So this model of car also won the first RAC rally in 1932 as well. Slightly different event then to the modern RAC rallies, because it involved how the car looked, and it had various tests like an acceleration test and braking test. And Bob was invited, I think, to the anniversary, I think the 75th anniversary at the Millennium Stadium, and they were sort of touring round the Millennium Stadium, and then all of a sudden all these other modern rally cars started coming in and crossing over, and he was there in the middle of his car with Chris, and these cars were flying around all over the place, and he was just kind of hoping none of them would hit him, and managed to escape there. And then a few years ago he died, and his widow Anne had the car but was wanting to, you're right, and so we acquired the car from her in 2019. She didn't want it to go into a private collection, she wanted it to be used and taken out and about and that sort of thing. And so we got it as part of the Lanchester archive, and they've made it sort of kitted out as like a mobile museum, so we take it to as many events as we can. So we'll be off to Gaydon in the next month, and we're doing the Moto Fest thing on Saturday as well, the Shakespeare run. We're going to be leading that off, so and then of course COVID hit. We were literally, our first event we were going to do was 20 something of March. Should be okay if you let them know, yeah. At the Belgreen Library, and then we had a load of events at care homes and all sorts of things, and then of course everything shut down. So but last year we did manage to make quite a lot of events, including down at Hampton Court Palace. Shouted too much about money. So it was obviously the Queen's 95th birthday last year, and at Hampton Court they had a special event where they had one British car from every year of her life, really, and this was the one chosen for 1931. So we were next to a Rolls Royce on one side and a Riley on the other side.
You've been invited to this drone airport launch event in a couple of weeks.
The students are actually going to be taking out in the car. They've done a project all about something, one of Fred's other projects, which was Aeronautics, which was his real kind of first love. And he did some real fundamental theories of aeronautics back in the mid-1890s, a good sort of 10 years for the Wright brothers, and they've been working on one of his patents for a flying machine, flying machine from 1897, which he never got to build. And they've been testing the wing sections, so we can have a look at those in the space. The wing sections to see whether it would have flown, and it turns out the design was way ahead of its time and really pretty astonishing in terms of the performance it would have had, equivalent to something in the sort of mid-1950s. But it was literally, he went to give a talk about this, and he was called a madman. He was thrown out basically for trying to give a talk about the Birmingham. Birmingham Scientific Societies, and so after that he kind of lost heart with it, and obviously it's very difficult to there's no business model for flying machines, whereas at least even it was very early for cars. He was able to get the cars early on.
Work. This is about his automotive work, and then some of his other stuff. We get to sit in the driving seat.
There you go.
So this is 1933 Lanchester. Well, the front of it. So once upon a time, this car was actually running.
1760s and 70s. So you had like Pink Floyd playing here, you know.
John.
You know, it was really the Lanchester Arts Festival was a massive annual event.
So Monty Python.
Python performed here. Yeah. So, and people know all them. Oh yeah, the show. I remember that. Yeah. Or a lot of them will say, no, my granddad owned.
College. He arrived in his Lanchester and parked up outside the technical.